Hola, welcome to our Spain. I think maybe we have a mutual our Spain today.
I think we might. The seasons are changing, and this osprey hasn't affected me yet. But I'm next on the list. I think. I believe we're talking about mosquitoes.
We are talking about the little mozzies, yes. Which surprisingly, I don't think that you have them year round, and we do here.
We do not. At least we have not been affected by them year round, and our windows are open quite often throughout the year. And
Yes.
and and not all of our windows have screens. So there is that.
Well, that's a whole
Well,
like
they did
okay.
at one point. They did at one point. They just the one that doesn't now because it was one of those velcroed on, but the screen itself had become so disintegrated that I just had
Mhm.
to take it down, and then I bought more rigid screens so the cats can't get out because that other one the cats could open it and get out, which we don't want them flying off the balconies in the middle of
Oh,
the
I see.
night.
That was more like a curtain type
Yes, with
screen
the
things that weren't
magnet that
with the
like holds.
magnets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had those in the States. I have to say because we lived in Virginia, like Alexandria, Virginia, like very mosquito-y. So I had tried to put one of those on the back door. Did nothing. I mean, it was so difficult. The wind blew and the magnets
Right.
like. I mean, it was not very productive. I didn't think, but you tried it.
Well,
You all are
they
still
came with
getting
the
bitten.
place, so they came.
Oh, okay. So what's going on in your house? Because then I'll tell you what's been going on in our house for mosquitoes. It's
So
now it's now June 1st.
it is June 1st, and I think the mosquitoes are playing a buffet. So far, I've unscathed, but for the past few days, my eldest has been complaining of these welts on her body from getting eaten alive at
Yeah, it's
night.
not good.
And then this morning, my youngest Paloma said, "Dad, I have mosquito bites." So they've made the rounds, and Omara hasn't complained in the past couple of days about the mosquito bites. So I think they found Paloma's um, um, scent more attractive now, and eventually they'll grow sick of her, and then they're gonna make it to my room. But right now, I don't have any bites, and I'm unscathed. So it's an spade for my kids, but an spade for me so far.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, I'll say and this kind of does lead in a little bit into what we're going to talk about today, which is the difference between living in the city and living outside of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have quite different lifestyle experiences here, I think.
one
I mean,
hundred
not that
percent.
we can't all experience both, but it's like your day-to-day life. And mosquito wise, the reason why I was thinking about the screens is because I mean, I leave all the windows and doors open to get the nice air and the breezes and stuff that are coming around, but when it comes to nighttime,
Mm-hmm.
everything gets closed and the only things that are open have screens on them.
Okay.
So that way, because otherwise I will get eaten. Like just they all come to me. Like everyone else is fine. If I'm around, you're all good because they're all just gonna be eating me. So I am very. I have a whole system for mosquitoes, which is that's the first thing, which is at night only the windows with screens are open, and then also we've had mosquitoes really. I mean, I got bitten in December. I mean, it's not crazy at that time of year, and you can probably find them and kill them, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't ever really go away. So for me, it's a year round sport. Let's call
Gotcha.
it of killing mosquitoes.
And you're up in nature. I mean, you've got you've got all the room for mosquitoes to grow, breed, live, have their
Oh
wonderful
yeah.
lifestyle, and in the city. And I
Uh-huh.
before I've moved here, and I will see on the message boards and the groups of people complaining about the mosquitoes in the city, and I will have to say we're relatively unscathed by the mosquitoes compared to Los Angeles. That when I first moved to Los Angeles 20 some years ago, there was no such thing as insects that bit. Like they just
Yeah,
didn't have, except for
nothing. Nothing
spiders.
when I lived there.
Except for
Oh,
spiders
yeah.
in the middle
They
of the
had no
night.
yeah, there were no mosquitoes when I was living there. That was one of the joys of LA and that
It was
climate was it was the perfect climate without the mosquitoes.
it
It
was
was
amazing. It
fantastic.
was
Yeah.
gorgeous. And then I don't know, 10, 15 years ago there was a shipment from China that had some mosquitoes, and they have
That's a
invasive
bummer.
species the whole area, and like you can't even walk around and all. So we're so used to when we got here, we're like, oh, this is great. We're mosquito free, but not as this last week. So
Oh,
she's
well,
getting
that's a
it.
bummer. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, you're right. We definitely have probably more of a environment for happy
Mm-hmm.
mosquitoes. I am the person that runs around the house at night before we go to sleep, and I have my tennis racket, my electric tennis racket, and I kill the mosquitoes, and I'm like laughing as I'm doing. It's a sport. Like I'm just like I killed another mosquito. Not that everybody can't hear because those rackets are like it's like the electric shock when you kill one, right? So I definitely go around like the rooms that people are sleeping in and kill as many mosquitoes as I can. And then obviously the screens are on the windows. We close things down as far as without screens once the lights go on in the house. And then it's quite a thing, really.
Right.
And then we also have those the thing that I found that works the best is the things that you plug into the wall. Mercadona has them, and they have the liquid, and it's probably spewing out some really nasty toxic things.
You mean like a room deodorizer, or is it for insects?
No. It's for it looks like a room deodorizer,
Okay.
but it's made for insects, and Mercadona has it. And I am not willing to look into what it is that it's doing because I can't live without it, and I have to suffer whatever the consequences are. Basically, so I am choosing to be ignorant, but it works really well, and I stick that one in my room, and it stops the mosquitoes.
Okay. Well, I do have basil and mint and lavender on our balconies, which they say are supposed to be mosquito repellents. So
Whatever. I don't know.
maybe that's helping too, or maybe I'm just so bitter and nasty that the mosquitoes don't like me, and my kids just.
I think maybe the latter.
That's not the latter.
I don't know. I don't think they've proven what it is. There's so many theories of what mosquitoes like, but I mean, at the end of the day, like if you are somebody that gets bitten, there's some measures that can be taken. But I love the tennis racket because I sit there and I kill them. It's so satisfying.
And you get your exercise in.
And you get your exercise in. Yeah, I'm running around the house waving the tennis racket for a good hour.
So do you go to the club and you're like, I can't play tennis today because I have tennis elbow?
Right. Exactly.
Do you tell your husband, please get that down from the cabinet? I have tennis elbow.
Oh, exactly. Well, he does do all that stuff anyway because he's so much taller than me. So.
Yeah, he's a little tall.
that is kind of one of his jobs. Yeah. So the mosquitoes, it is manageable, but they are many.
So I have a question then. Well, this is a city versus country topic then as we transition. We're having roaches here now that are the size of school buses.
Oh
I think
God,
I saw
no.
one carrying a school bus. It was so big.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And-
is that something that's come out in more parts of the city than usual, or is it something I've heard that's kind of around anyway?
Well, it's that season. So according to my Spanish bus mom, who's also named Paloma, by the way, but not my child Paloma, a different Paloma. Imagine that. And I was telling her because I was literally laying on my bed, and it is the peripheral vision of my eye caught this small chihuahua crawling across my floor like it.
In your apartment?
I was reading a book on my bed, and
Okay, you have two cats. Don't they have a job?
They're busy catching the flies that are coming in because we don't have screens.
Useful.
So, yeah.
I would personally put them on the cockroaches. And you're on the wait a minute. So you're on the third floor. So that's
Right.
I don't like that. That's
Yeah.
too
Well, these things are huge,
Yeah.
and if you see the backs of their legs, like the hooks they have, I mean, I think they
Oh
could
my
climb.
God, I don't. Please, no. I do not need to know. I'm never visiting you again, so if that was the goal, success.
So we found 3. I bought like rat traps so we found 2 this year. Last year I found 1, put the rat traps. So they must have been expired now. So I gotta put all the rat traps. What are they called? Roach traps. Sorry, the roach baits or whatever.
Trap.
I gotta put
And that
those
works.
in.
That works.
Well, we hadn't seen them until this year, so I was like, is it seasonal or
yeah,
is it
so that's
seasonal and they've expired? So I mean, it's probably a little bit of both.
I mean, I do think, in all fairness, this is the life of living in apartment buildings in a city, and it's hot, and all that stuff. I don't think, as far as I have heard, this is a disgusting line of conversation. I don't know that we want to carry on. I've heard that Valencia is not big on rats, but it does have roaches. That's what I heard. In a lot of cities, I mean.
That's good
A
to
lot of
know because
cities
I
do.
haven't seen a rat or a mouse since we've been
There
here.
you go.
And I lived in LA and New York and other places where there are rats aplenty, and they'll stop and say
Right.
hello. Like they're not scared of you. Yeah.
No. And I don't, that's what I heard. And I think if you're gonna, so at least you don't have everything.
Right,
But,
right.
I wouldn't. Up here, no. I have never, God, touch wood. I do not want to see a roach in my house. Oh my gosh. Although we did, oh my gosh, we did have. I don't think this is not a, well, maybe it is a mountain situation, or it might be a pet situation, or it might be a mountain and pet situation, which
Okay.
is that we have four cats and a dog, and the cats love to bring things into the house.
Okay.
And what they bring in are mostly crickets and whatever those little cricket things, and they
Mm-hmm.
bounce around. And the cats, it's like the most fun toy. And I try to save them and take them back outside. And usually nothing too crazy.
You don't
Right?
get
They're
dead
doing what your
birds or
cats
mice on your doorstep?
occasionally, but what happened once in the middle of the night is I heard, and I think one of the nice things about having cats, if you do live out in the country, is you live in the country, so there's going to be field mice or little mice and maybe some rats running around in the wild. So if you do have cats, they will take care of that, and they're not going to be. I've never seen a mouse in our house ever, and I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning one morning, and I hear just shenanigans going on downstairs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have a cat door that reads the chip of the cat, so only your cats can get in and out.
Wait, what now?
um
So what?
yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, okay, that's too much technology for me. No.
No, it's awesome, because when we
So your
first
cat
moved
has an
in,
easy pass, basically an easy pass
totally,
system
yes.
in their neck.
Yes, which you want when you live out in the country, because there's other cats. And when we first moved in and we didn't have that, and we just had the doors open, other cats were like, oh, they're like telling all their friends, there's food and water in that house, there's food and water in the house, going around the neighborhood, right? And suddenly we have this like orange cat in our, I'm like, we don't have an orange cat, what is this cat doing? And our cats are like, what are you doing in the house? And they're starting to fight, and it was chaos. And then I saw that cat door, and I was like, this seems like a good idea, because they're kind of nocturnal, so
Right.
So only our cats can get in and out of the house at night. And
So
I
they're telling
heard
you they could totally be opening the door with their tail, let the whole
this is
party
what I
in.
thought. Or holding the cat flap open, right? Come
Right,
on,
yeah.
guys, come on in. Party time. This is what I thought had happened. I thought maybe one of our cats had brought in a friend through the cat flap, right?
Right.
And I mean, probably smart enough. I come downstairs, and there's a mouse trying to, it's quite a cute little mouse, but he wasn't cute. He was maybe a small rat, like, but he was relatively small. The cats had obviously brought him in to play with. He wasn't in the house, because we don't have mice in the house. The cats, what they do is they find them outside, and then they bring their toys into the house to play with, right?
Right.
So one of them had brought in a mouse for everybody to play with. I mean, they're
That's
nice that way.
That's very nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So I come downstairs, and Blaze was still sleeping for some reason, and the cats were playing with this mouse, and this mouse was running, and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm freaking out. And then finally this mouse ends up under this chest that we have that has little feet. So there's enough room for a mouse, but not enough room for a cat. We've got four cats on each side of this chest, and the mouse is underneath, right?
Just trapped.
Just trapped, completely trapped. And I'm like, well, at least it's trapped, but they're playing with it. So how am I going to get it out of the house, right? Oh my God. And then it managed to run out and get into this. We have this heater that takes a butane tank, and it's on wheels, and you attach the butane tank to the heating things, and then you can turn it on, and it's like almost like a actual fire, like the thing that heats, and it heats really, really well. But it's also on wheels, which is really nice. So you can just take it to a portion of the house that's a little cold in the winter, and heat it pretty well. But this thing has like a hole in the back. This mouse managed to get inside where the tank sits and sit in there, and I was like, it's on wheels, perfect, right?
Right.
And this was the point where Blaze woke up. So now Blaze woke up, and Blaze is running around chasing the cats because they're trying to chase the mouse. And I'm like, I'm in a cartoon right now, and
you're trying to chase the
anymore.
mouse, so there's a whole.
I'm chasing the dog and the cats and the mouse, and I'm also trying to keep an eye on the mouse, because I don't want this mouse actually let loose in our house for real, because right now the cats have it. But if Blaze chases the cats away, I'm like, really, this is really not fun. So then I had to go wake up Jawad, and I'm like, I need help. So he rolls this thing out into outside the house, and then luckily I was like, I don't know if this mouse is still in this thing, and then Blaze is like smelling it. I'm like, okay, the mouse is still in there. And then finally the cats are gone at this point. They're like, we're out. This is not fun anymore. You took our toy.
Right,
we're out of this. And got the whole thing out the house. Luckily, I see this mouse just leg it out of this thing, out into the woods. And I was like, thank God. This was way too much for 3 o'clock in the morning. But this is country life.
So if you want to live the mountains,
animals,
this is the thing you have to worry about. But also, I think you brought something else that should be discussed, is that many of the houses in the country in the mountains don't have heaters and air conditioning and stuff. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, we don't. I mean, that's something, you know, that I mean, a lot of them do, but we did get an older house that doesn't have air conditioning and heating, so we put in fans. And we decided not to put in, I mean, the heating, it's not that cold. We've managed to take care of that quite well with just electric portable heaters, which totally works. And I think ultimately, if you were to try and heat a whole house and air condition a whole house of the size that we have,
right,
it would be outrageously expensive. So you'd have to be very much prepared for that cost if you wanted to have that kind of luxury out with a big house in the country, I think. So, and in the summer, quite frankly, we have a pool, we have the breeze. There's very few days where we're so unbelievably hot. It has to get to be like 100 and something for that to be really unbearable, because we have a pool, we open all the windows, we put fans on, there is a breeze coming from the water. So unless the air is so hot that the breeze is hot,
right,
it's totally manageable in my opinion. But depends on where you come from. We came from DC. It's a very, very hot and humid place.
Right.
This feels cooler to us. You know, if you came from Norway or something, you might be like, oh, this is really unbearable, right?
Yeah, but you'd be swimming in the pool in the winter because you would think it was so hot.
Totally. I did that. I swam until my last swim was in December. I made it all the way through to December, and then I couldn't do it anymore.
That's insane. But
yeah, it was a little.
And I've been talking to some hospitals, so you might get a visit about this. But you know,
but you have heat and air conditioning, and you have an apartment now. We also lived in an apartment before, and sometimes your air conditioning breaks. Like, how long does it take for you to get that fixed usually?
Okay, so last summer we did have this happen. Our air conditioner had broken in July during the hottest month of the year. And people think it's August. No, I've been here now 2 summers. July is much hotter. I also don't know if it's because it hits you so hard. And
no, I think you're right. I've had the same experience. It starts to, I wouldn't say cool off in August, but if we have those really hot days, they're happening in July usually.
The 104s are happening in July. And so we had those, and thankfully our wonderful neighbors upstairs, so I think I mentioned in last week's episodes, Robin and Jan, our saviors, they were out of town.
We all love you now, I guess.
They let us stay in their apartment for the month, and it took a month for our air conditioning to get fixed because it's the summer. I mean, of course your air conditioner is going to break down when everyone's breaks down. So to get someone here that wanted to do it, and my big fear is and it was like taking weeks to get someone, and I finally got someone. And they did fix it, but they had to order parts, and it was an air conditioner that they don't sell in Spain anymore. So they had to order parts from like China. So it was all these different levels of like, I can't believe. And I was like, I want it fixed before August because I'm so fearful of like when August hits. Like everyone's like, I'm sorry you don't have air conditioning. I'm going to Gandia to my apartment for a month and sitting at the beach.
Right.
So,
but it probably wouldn't take that long usually. I wouldn't imagine. I mean, when we lived in an apartment before we moved up here. We didn't live in the city, but we lived in a small, like a large village, I guess, town. It's a small town, large village-y sort of place that was kind of a rural place, but had everything. And that, I mean, we could get things done pretty quickly, but there weren't as many people, right?
Yeah, so, and the air conditioner guy, it was hard to get someone here first. And then when the guy did come, he was like, if it was a different brand of air conditioner, I could have this fixed like in a couple days. It's just because these parts are coming from... they're just not here, so you had to order everything. So that was problemsome. And and to our listeners know, if they're looking at places, there are a lot of apartments also in the city that don't have heat and air conditioning. So it is a crazy thing to look for. And
what do you think? Like, what do you think it would be like to live in the city?
I think heat is more of a priority than air conditioning, even though air conditioning is a priority as well. But
the heat you can do with it. It's easy to plug in some heaters. Couldn't you just manage that?
I guess you could.
I mean, that's how we manage, and it's fine.
Yeah, I guess you could do space heaters. I mean, yeah, I mean, air conditioning is, I mean, we did that month and it was pretty hard. I mean, we were out of the house more and upstairs a lot more as
There
well.
you go.
Um,
That's true.
but it was that, you know, we had like, we had borrowed, they had fans, we had all their fans from upstairs down here. So we also wanted to be in our own place. So we didn't want to just be in their
Of
apartment. We wanted to be
course,
with our
yeah.
stuff and things. So we had all the fans blowing and trying to make wind
Yeah.
tunnels. The one thing that I will say about being in the city, and it kind of goes with what you're saying about, you know, the mountain and the breeze and stuff. Valencia itself and the mountains too, it's very windy here. Not like Chicago windy, but it's a very windy place. So even when it's like 100, it can be stifling in your apartment. But you go to the streets, and if you're in the shade and you're in one of those streets that's catching the wind coming down, it feels
Mm-hmm.
20 degrees cooler. I mean, you will see people at the
Oh,
sidewalk
nice.
cafes in those heat, and as long as they're not in the sun, they're fine because the breeze comes through. You
Right.
know,
So you might not have that through breeze in your apartment, but you can easily find a cooler place,
right?
running around the city. Yeah.
There is
And I
kind.
think and yeah, I
I
think the city apartments too. I mean, I don't know what kind of fans you have. I mean, we put fans in all of our bedrooms and in the living room and stuff so that we have air movement that kind of helps the air moving. And so long as there is some cool air to be had, we can sort of force a bit of a breeze through our house.
Right. I mean, and we can too. I mean, we have you know, our windows are in the front and back, so there is a way to
Mm-hmm.
channel air through if it's going to come through, right? If it's not coming through, it's
Right.
not coming through. And uh, so we can do that. I will say there's this kind of like, you know, saying about the city, right? Our apartments are colder in the winter than outside and hotter inside in the summer than it is outside. And
Oh,
that's true.
okay,
So
that's
like
good.
when you're like
Yeah.
when you go outside, you'll be freezing at home in the wintertime. You go outside and you're like, it's not that cold out here, but inside the house it's so cold. And then in the
Mm-hmm.
summer you're like dying in the house and you go outside like, well, it's not that bad out here.
What?
Yeah. So
I would say overall, in from my experience living up in the mountains here outside of the city, and you can live outside of the city in a town, somewhere where you're not up in the hills.
mhm.
So this is just my experience from living sort of outside up in the hills where we do have a bit of a breeze and all this kind of stuff. It's both are manageable with sort of space heaters and a pool. I mean, we've been and
Right.
fans from my opinion. Would I love to be, I mean, the issue that I have with air conditioning is if you decide to air condition your house, now you can't experience the lovely fresh air and the smell of the jasmine that's in your garden floating through your house and all the things that I love.
Right.
So I wouldn't be able to enjoy the lifestyle that I wanted living up in the mountains if I was to air condition my house. So there
Right.
is an aspect of needing to be a little hotter than maybe you would like to be sometimes in order to have the lifestyle of being outside, having your windows open, having these like winds and breezes. I mean, it's just there's a portion of the year where it's perfect.
Well, and your house is very that indoor outdoor lifestyle too. I mean,
Yeah.
your house begets going outside. You know,
Yeah.
you know, you've got the terraces and the views, and we can talk about that. That's another pro of living where she lives. She, you know, I'm going to say
You sound bitter.
that little bitterness that maybe that repels mosquitoes. She has a view from her house that you cannot obtain in the city, and that is
No,
it is a dream view. You're on her
it is.
patio and you see all of Valencia and the Mediterranean and mountainscapes, and it is quite impressive.
It is.
It
We
is a very
do love
good
it.
reason to live up there. That is for sure. That's for
Thank
sure.
you. Yeah, but it was a selling point for sure.
Mhm.
And we live literally in the mountains, as opposed to kind of down sort of outside of the city. So we can also, one of the benefits of living, I mean, when you think of Valencia, I mean, not to speak of other Spanish cities, but when you think of Valencia, you can live in the mountains very close to Valencia. So we are about
Right.
25 minutes from you, driving. And I think I can walk out of my house and we're in an urbanization. So we have neighbors and we have a community,
Hmm.
but we can't really walk to anything other than hikes. So, and neighbors. So we have a community and we have neighbors, but it's like, you're not walking to we have a little cafe that's sometimes open, but I mean, you're not walking to the post office or for a coffee or for, your
Right.
groceries. You have to get in your car to do all of those things. And I think that is something that that's the pro and con, really, because like
Right.
I can walk out of the house in the morning with my dog, walk up into the mountains, hike for 2 hours, and come home and have a beautiful time.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, if you're living in the city, you would have to own a car to have that experience. So
Right.
that means owning a car in the city, which is a whole other thing I can ask you about. But so that's probably one of the greatest joys is this kind of very refreshing life of having fresh
Right.
air and ability to and space and ability to walk around and do stuff, but you don't have access to all the great things you have in the city.
Right.
Right.
Right. And we love living in the city. This was when I had first thought about moving here with the girls. I had promised them a house in the suburbs with a pool and a dog. That was kind of that was
So did we delivered.
You
Just
delivered.
saying.
Yeah, you delivered. I have failed. But we then came to visit, and then we decided that no, we should we all decided that we wanted to live in this city because I just knew it would be isolated. I was like, let's live in the city for a year, and then then we'll know the city, and that way when we move out of it, we'll know the city. Versus if we would have moved straight to the country and then again isolated, or like in a village outside or one of the suburbs outside the city, that I would feel isolated. Maybe I would never connect with the city. And then after a year, we were all like, we don't really want to leave. We have a friend in the mountain who has a pool, so we don't need to have a pool. They have a dog. We don't need a dog. Anyway, so.
Yeah, and you have access to things, I think. And I will say from very, if you come to visit us, it's a whole thing, right? Logistically. And and I've had people that not close friends, but acquaintances that I've hung out with that have moved to the city, and I no longer hang out with them. Like, there is a logistics that makes it hard to really, you're the only person that I know that we've actually maintained and built a friendship with who lives in the city. Oh, isn't that nice?
That's so sweet.
Yeah, for all our sins. So, so I mean, it takes a lot, I think, to maintain a relationship with somebody that's in the city somehow, because your life outside of the city is very car based.
Right. And I will say that and being in the city, we also have a trap that you don't have, because we don't own a car. We can't go to the waterfalls. We can't go to these things. Or if we do find the public transportation option, it's like it's a 3-hour ordeal, which would really be a 30-minute car trip, because it's not going. We have to go to this other town to get to this. Like, there's no direct way, because it's a weird site that we want to try to see. So we're trapped by exploring Spain via train and plane. So we can't go see a lot of these areas around here. And I haven't driven in Spain yet, and I know that's a hurdle I need to get over, but I also don't have a license. I've been here long enough that I should have a license by now. So it is.
But that's legit. That's a legitimate thing that people need to think about, is if you're coming from America specifically, you cannot transfer your driver's license. So you need to take the test here. So, yes, you can live in the city and rent cars and go do stuff, but there's a lot of things that need to happen before that's a legitimate management way of your living your life, right?
And I've seen, I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't have it. I just still rent my car. No one cares, blah, blah, blah. But if you get caught, there's huge fines. I think they can even impound the rental car. I think someone told me. I mean, I don't know. It's a think. I think I read that somewhere. But
I don't think that's how you'd want to be living.
No, that's not how you'd want to be living. But it is very expensive to get a driver's license here. You're looking at around 800 to 1,000 euros or more even, because you have to take the test. You have to take the written test. You have to take the driving test, and many people will fail the practical test. Even Spaniards, it's kind of a catch. They want you to fail kind of thing. I don't know, and you have to take the courses. It's expensive, and the license itself is expensive. So it's something I haven't done, because I'm like, I don't really feel like spending 1,000 euros like anytime soon. And it's a process of several months of taking these classes and preparing yourself.
And as somebody that's living in the city, so we're friends, and, it would be nice for you just to come to our house.
Right.
But you can't. You have to, the logistics of it is you take a metro all the way out to Betra, and then we come and get you. And it's only 50 minutes. It's not like a big ordeal, but it means that we have to pick you up and bring you to our house. And then when you leave, we have to take you back down to Betra to take the metro, and then you can get home. Right. So we're stuck with you.
You're stuck with us.
And you're stuck with us until we want to drive you.
And then the metro only runs so late, so if we miss that, we're either going back up the hill and spending the night, or you're driving us to the city.
Oh, you didn't think sleeping at the train station was an option?
No, that's not an option. Sorry. And also, what's Uber? Can I spit that out? I can get the words out. The Uber, the Cabify,
Uber.
the driving platforms, right? The shared car
Mm-hmm.
service things, is in the city very available. But once you get outside the city and the further you go, it's not possible. So like where my daughters go to school, I can get a cab there if I've missed the train or I just
Mm-hmm.
want to get there quickly or I need to get there in an emergency. I can get a car to take me there. But once I'm there, getting a car back, not gonna happen. It's happened several
Not
times that
happen.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh, dang it.
And I think this is one of the reasons that it is realistically, I mean, for me anyway, realistically, my friendships have fallen mostly with people outside of the city that also have a car. So if we want to do something, we go to each other's houses, we can come and go, blah, blah, blah. If we want to go into the city, we go into the city. I don't go into the city that often. We
Right.
go into the city to go to the bank or do something that we need to do. Or I might have a day where I come and meet you or another friend from out here. We go into the city and do something. But it's like, that takes up like half of my day or more. So
Right.
it's not something that I'm doing super regularly, to be honest, because my whole life is out here, really.
Right.
And I go into the city very sporadically for things. So I would say when you live outside of the city, even though it's super close, which is very convenient, and the hospitals and all the things that we go to are all in the city if we need them, and it's close enough for that
Mm-hmm.
to be the case. Our life is outside of the city with other people outside of the city for the most part, I
Right,
would
right.
say.
And for us
Um,
city folk, when kids have birthday parties in these suburban
mm,
laser tags and go-kart places and those kinds of things, city folk who don't have cars, it can be an ordeal. And I'm on the WhatsApp groups begging other parents. I'm like, is anyone going that has a car? Do you want to share a cab? Because some of them are not accessible
yeah.
by the subway or the bus. Or if you have to take a bus, it is 2 hours, which could be a
Yeah.
15-20 minute cab ride. But sometimes you're like,
But
I don't.
we're not thinking about you guys
No,
when we have a party out
not at
here.
all. And I look at it, I'm
But
like,
you
I looked
but
at
you
one
did also
party.
put you put your kids in a school outside. Let's be honest though, you
Right.
did put your kids in a school outside of the city. Your kids could have gone to school in the city and then you probably maybe wouldn't have had that
Well, not
as
really,
much.
because there's only one school in this city that you could send your kids to as a
Well, there's
private
also public
international.
school and concertado schools. So there are
Right.
a lot of schools. I'm just saying there is a culture in the city where people are living there and their kids are going to school with other kids in the city, and you might not run into that as much.
Yeah,
But that's,
probably, but
yeah,
but then again, all these laser tag places are all outside the city because they are in warehouse districty kind of places or big
yeah,
malls, right? But
yeah.
yeah, there is only one real private school in the city that's in an international English school. So for us, there was no option. Most of the private schools that I think a lot of expats would be looking into are going to be in the suburbs and the outer
Most
towns. Yeah.
likely. Yes,
And
most
so
likely.
that is something to think about if you're moving here and you want to move city country. Does the school have a bus to where you want to live? Does it not have a
Yeah.
bus to where you want to live? Or do you want to drive it? Like that, those are those kinds of things to think about. Um, and but I
Yeah,
mean,
because
we're very happy
we
here.
lived. Yeah, no, I mean it's great. It's a logistics issue
Right.
really, and the birthday parties, that is a thing. But I think you probably also, I would imagine, mostly hang out with other people in the city versus, I mean, how many people like us are you hanging out with that are living outside of the city?
No, I mean it's
Probably,
we hang out with city folk. We do, and
yeah,
and my daughters. I
yeah,
mean, unfortunately, a lot of them have friends outside, and they make their play dates work. And but it is a scheduling. There's a maneuvering, a navigating
mm-hmm.
thing, if you will, of like, my oldest is at a party in Gillette, which is like what 45 minutes from the city, 35 minutes from
Yeah.
the city, and there's one girl that lived in the city who has a car, and she's doing the carpool for the kids that are going up from the city and then bringing them back. So it
Yeah,
does
so
happen.
I mean my point I guess is that even though on the map it looks like, oh yeah, I'm going to live 20 minutes outside of the city and go into the city all the time and all this kind of stuff, or I'm going to live in the city and I'm going to spend a lot of time going back and forth out. It just doesn't,
It
it's
doesn't
not what
happen.
happens.
Mm-mm.
And I lived in LA for a long time. We moved from Alexandria, Virginia. We were very used to driving everywhere. Like even in Alexandria where we had a few things close to us, but if we wanted to go to Target or Home Depot or something, we had to get in a car and do that. There was
Right.
no, it was a very car and sort of a focused lifestyle, and I drove my daughter to school there as well for like, it took maybe 15 minutes to drive her to school. So I was like well prepped for that. And that aspect of it didn't really bother me. But
Right.
I will say your lifestyle seems much more convenient that
It
you
is
can
convenient.
just do that.
And
Yeah.
after being in LA and having driven for 20 some years in LA, when I moved here, I was like, I don't want to ever drive again because it's gotten so bad that, just to go 2 miles could take 45 minutes, and you're like,
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, LA special.
yeah. And then we're here and I'm like, we're walking to places we used to drive to, right? Like this, we would have never walked that
Right?
far. Never, right?
No, which is really good. Yeah, but I will say there's no traffic here. I mean, there
No.
will be occasionally some traffic for something, but they're most likely at that point there's been an accident or something.
Or a soccer
because,
match. Like that's
or a soccer
football,
match. Yes.
football, as we
A
say.
football match. So I would say I never hit traffic going back and forth from school. So I know exactly how long it takes, and I've never hit any traffic that way. We drove into see you one evening, and there was something going on, and not only was there an insane amount of traffic, there was no parking in any of the parking lots or anything, and it was like, oh my god. So it's not always practical to drive into the city for one festival or football or another.
And the city has I feel like it has just 2 or 3 entry points because I feel like there's only a couple ways in and out, and that one
But
that you
generally
come
it's
through
very
is
easy.
right by the stadium, so that always
Yeah.
if there's something there, that's your bottleneck
That's it.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, but even the city is very easy to drive around. So I
Yeah.
will say, like, if I want to drive into the city and out, like, it's super easy. So we're obviously very car focused. We need a car to do everything here.
Right.
And you're obviously very public transportation. But other than that, I would say, one of the reasons that we picked wanting to be up in outside of the cities, we did want a pool and we did
Right.
want a garden. Jawad wanted to grow vegetables and have a bit of a vegetable garden and all this type of thing, and we wanted to get a dog. And so this all kind of centered around us needing to live somewhere where it was houses and gardens.
Right. Right.
So we did manage to get all those things, and I think it's probably like that's a I mean, we really enjoy all those aspects of it, and it's hard to complain about where we live because it's very nice, but it's definitely connectivity is an issue.
I mean, we're limited and you're limited, right? Every
Yes.
area is going to have its limitations. We can't explore nature as freely as we'd like to, and not that we really wanted to
Not
anyway.
that you do.
But if we wanted to, we really can't.
In that world where that was something that
Yeah.
everybody wanted to do, like we dragged Zeno out of the house this morning because we're going down to the beach to take the dog for a walk. We're going to take a nice walk down the promenade, and it was lovely. But I mean, teenage girls, it's a little harder to be like,
Right.
we're going out for a walk. No, you need to be going to a shop or to a thing for them to be like.
Well, my kids don't
super
even want to leave the
excited.
house. They're like, because they don't remember, they don't like shopping. They don't like clothes. Like, they don't like that stuff. And then I'm like, can we go to the beach? And they're like, no, they don't want to go to the beach. When would we go? They end up having a good time. And they're like, we should go to the beach more
Yeah.
often. But then the next one, like, let's go back to the beach. Do we have to? I'm like, can we leave your caves, please? I mean, that is the other thing about living in the city too, is that we have this very bright apartment on either end, but in the center it is dark, and that's where their bedrooms are. So their bedrooms are on the air shafts, so they don't get any light. Valencia's apartment buildings, and even the newer apartment buildings, even though their towers are still built similarly, where these the apartments are front to back through the building. They're not like in America, like an apartment will like go span one side of the hallway. And here there's like an elevator shaft and only 2 doors. And even though the apartment building might be wide, there's like 6 elevator shafts that provide for 2 apartments per floor.
So
Do
you
know what I'm
have
saying?
you have a few rooms that don't have outside windows.
Right. They have air shaft
So
windows. I
that's-
mean, you can open them and theoretically get fresh air,
But not light.
But not light. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that is one of the things that's nice about having a house and being out
Right.
in the country is that we have it very bright.
Right.
Love it. Love the amount of air and the light and everything. It's really, really nice. And I have to say, it smells better than the city. Let's be
The
honest.
city smells just
offense.
fine. The city is perfect. We don't sell none of that manure they use to
That's
to
true.
fertilize the fields. So there.
We do get that. I will say Valencia does not smell bad as a city, but
Right.
obviously a city is going to smell more city-like than
And
living in the country.
and
So.
Valencia does have a sewage smell that's not constant, and it's weird because it will waft by you, and it's worse in the summer, in the heat of the summer. But I've smelt it sometimes in the winter, and it'll come out of nowhere. And our apartments will smell like sewage sometimes too, because it's the drains. They don't have S-curve drains here, and all these different kinds of things. And then you won't, and like in our apartment, we haven't smelt it for months, and I know we'll smell it one day and be like, well, how did, like, we haven't done anything different. Why is it coming up now? You know, all of our drains
Like
are being
it's very
used.
weird,
Yeah.
right?
And it'll come sometimes just be in the street and you'll smell it, and it can be bad. But I mean, I've also lived in New York and I've lived in LA, and they can smell very bad, and we don't have that.
No, that's a thing in a lot of places, I think.
And they do wash the sidewalks every night here. You know,
oh my God,
I mean,
it's very clean here.
Very
clean. Yeah. We have a one of the other reasons that we wanted. So when we lived in Alexandria, there was a rule of some sort. I'm not going to get the numbers right, but I think 100 feet or 200 feet is if you wanted to get chickens, they had to be X amount of feet from the edge of your property line.
Okay.
Right. And we lived in an area where it was sort of row houses and gardens and houses and gardens, right? Mm-hmm. So you had a small garden with either your whole house or your half house or whatever, okay. Right? And the way that it was the way that they had calculated that number meant that nobody had the space to put a chicken.
Okay.
Because of the distance of the width of your garden, right?
Okay.
So when we moved here, that was one of the things that Jawad wanted to. He's like, I want to have chickens. So we did set up we have a whole section of our garden that has the kitchen garden, and he's grown like tomatoes, which I don't eat. He can grow tomatoes, so many tomatoes here, right? And he's grown broccoli, which has been amazing, and like radishes. I mean, really delicious things. And we moved the fence to put the chickens in, and we haven't put the chickens in yet because we do have 4 cats and a dog. So I don't know how they would survive. Know how
these chickens are gonna.
They might last a day. So we haven't had the guts to actually put them in yet because we're a bit worried about what the outcome might be, but we have the space for it at least.
I mean, you talk about this garden.
Nice.
Have any of your animals dug up your garden? I mean, are you able to? You've grown for the most part, or?
It's been that. I mean, we could probably interview Jawad for an hour on the shenanigans that our cats have got up to in the garden and him trying to stop them from sleeping on his plants and eating them. But really, the snails are the problem.
Oh, really?
So he will go out in the middle of the night with a little light on his, with a little light on his head, like he's mining.
Like a coal miner?
Right? Totally. And he goes down there with a bucket and like pulls all the snails and puts them in the bucket. So
does he sell them to the paella restaurant down the hill?
He
could totally make a business.
just leave them at the front of their restaurant here. I mean, snails are very, very like what's the word? I can't think of
delicious.
Destructive.
Oh, destructive. That too.
I don't find them delicious. I feel like we've had this discussion before because you have snails on the paella down there in the city, but so that I think has been the biggest problem, has been the snails and managing the snails. But we've had some really nice food from the garden, and that has been a huge like benefit of like eating the food that you've grown has been. I mean, delicious. Very, very different.
Well, I have a garden. I have, like I said before, I have basil and mint. You know, you could have a garden in this city. And I made caprese sandwiches on a baguette and used our fresh basil. So, us city folk could be country too.
Absolutely. And you probably have the little fruiter and vegetable places that probably are selling maybe some things that are grown around in Valencia as well. Some local produce, I would imagine.
There's a level. I mean, there's a caste system on the fruit and vegetable markets.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have there's a van that comes around our town and all the urbanizations in the summer on certain days, and it's like a farmer's market van, and they're selling, and they have a little thing, and they've got their little loudspeaker, and they're like, we're coming, and you can buy like whatever they have, like garlic and onions and fruit and vegetables and stuff, and you can buy it right outside your house. So that's kind of, so there's some little like rural things that are quite cute. There's also a van that comes around if you want your knives
I
sharpened.
was
I feel
just
like
gonna
this
ask
is
you that. Do you have that van? Because
yes,
we
we
have
do.
that van too, and
Do you?
that'll drive a dad crazy. Because when you're just trying to
Oh
relax
yeah.
at home, and it's like, and it
Yeah.
sounds like it almost sounds like to me when I first heard it, I thought it was like some opposition party, like someone like running for office or something, and like warning us
That's
at the
so
end of the work. It
funny.
was like because it's this weird siren sound, and then this really loud voice, and I don't speak Spanish, and I still don't understand what they're saying. And then I asked
I
one of my
think they're
friends,
doing
like,
it in Valencia and up here for sure. And I thought it was like an ice cream truck or something because that's all I could imagine that was driving around. But yeah, like a political party,
yeah,
like
it's
car
loud.
sounds really loud.
And I was like, what do we need to leave? Like, are we being evacuated? What's going on?
Right? And I'm like, I'm looking on my WhatsApp group because we have a WhatsApp group for our urbanization and I'm waiting for somebody to post something, right? Because things happen around here. So we
Mm-hmm.
have like, there was an adjustment just like learning, like, so there's hunting season. So I woke up one morning and I heard like, shotguns
Okay.
going because we're in the mountains. So it's echoing. They weren't actually anywhere near our house, but they were up in the mountains. And I think I want to say between October and February or something, you
Okay.
do have to get a license and all this kind of stuff.
What
But
are they
that's when
hunting?
they
Do you
start.
know?
I think maybe rabbit and
Wild
those
pig?
pigs,
Yeah.
maybe the wild pig, I would imagine. I don't know. Maybe deer. I have seen deer here once, but I've never seen them again.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're allowed to shoot
They used to hunt
those.
deer. They got the last one.
They got the last one, maybe.
Sorry.
But so yeah, I saw one, but I think that those are. I mean, that was like one thing, and then also like you were saying with these little vans and stuff that go around. I think almost surely they're speaking and they're doing their announcements in Valenciano because the Valenciano is kind of what they've probably been doing for like a really really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So when they've got that, and it's not a great loudspeaker, so when they're speaking on that loudspeaker in Valenciano, I like you, I don't understand what's going
Right.
on, and I always go back to my WhatsApp group to see if anyone's saying anything because it's like, is it normal or is something new happening? And usually it's something totally normal that I just don't know about.
Right. Right.
But it works. But it's nice to have the farmers market van that comes around because we haven't been able to grow everything, sadly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say the caste system of the fruit and vegetable markets here is we know there's the ones that you go, that's the cheapest ones, and that's where you're gonna eat vegetables today. Like you're not gonna buy them for tomorrow. Those are the here and nows. I feel like they've gotten all the ones from the grocery stores. Like this is the resale
Right.
of the
Oh,
place.
I see.
And then there's the
Okay.
ones that have like the fancy salad dressings, and maybe they're not. I don't know, bottles that look like salad dressings, and it's like a more curated shop that have
Like gifts and things.
gifts and things, and they have fruits and vegetables that are more
Oh,
expensive,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
And then there's the grocery stores that have their own selection of produce, but it's limited. And then if you want more selection, you have to go to like the Central Market, the Rusafa Market, the bigger markets. But those tend not to be cheap. So like
That's true.
I mean, people back in the city, I have to go to the farmers market. Well, if you're on a budget, the farmers market is not. It's not the cost-effective way to go. And so our big markets here, they'll have things that you can't get, so you don't have a choice. But if I'm going to buy apples, sometimes I'd rather get them at the grocery store because they're going to be cheaper. And
Interesting, because we have one grocery store. I mean, likely if you live outside the city somewhere, you'll have one grocery store, and then we have a couple of those fruit and vegetable little tiny shops. We have maybe a couple of those. And then at certain times of year when things are harvested, some people just open their front door and they have some crates of things of whatever has come from either their back garden or their cousin or I don't know where they get this stuff from, but there'll be people sitting at their front door with a few crates of a certain thing.
okay.
That's in season. So you can literally buy things. If you go into town here, you can literally like just buy something off of the old lady sitting in front of her house, and I don't know where that stuff comes from, but there are various.
That's kind
sort
of
of
cute
little
though.
things like
I mean,
that.
that's like
It is,
that's
yeah.
kind of I kind of like that. I wish that.
And I haven't
cool.
compared the prices, but I would imagine her stuff has to be cheaper. There's a
Right.
place down on the way into town where they sell bags of oranges every now and again. So there are like a lot of individuals just making a little bit of cash, I think, selling some things. And
Right.
I think some of them have communal gardens in different places where they might be growing things. Some of them might have a farm and they just took a couple of crates home to
Right.
sell to the neighbors, that that type of thing. So that's really, I really like that too. I think it's really cute.
Well,
And that's
if
definitely a
Jawad's
very
harvests
rural
ever get
thing.
big, will he be outside your gate selling some broccoli and tomatoes that you don't eat?
We Well, we literally just give them to all the neighbors. So we have, so it's kind of like a bartering system. So our neighbors on one side have lemons, our neighbors on the other side have oranges and pomegranates. Jawad's growing loads of tomatoes and cucumbers, and he grew these cucumbers one time that got so big it was ridiculous. And I was like, I think they must have been overgrown. And I was like, they're going to be taste disgusting, right? Because when something overgrows, it's going to lose
Bitter
its
and
flavor and bitter and gross. And I opened it up and I was like, this is amazing. This is an amazing cucumber, but it's going to take us 3 weeks to eat this one cucumber. So then we were giving these enormous cucumbers to our neighbors who thought we were all crazy until they started eating them. And they're like, oh my God, this is really good. But it took us 2 weeks to eat it. But so we do, you grow weird things when you start growing your own stuff. It doesn't look like it does in the grocery store always.
Right.
You know? So you have that experience too. But I would say the best positive I think about living outside of the city versus inside the city is having a pool. I'm gonna just put that right out
I
there.
would agree that's your best positive of living outside the city. And I think our best positive is being able to walk to just everything, like, so we don't miss like the fact, like if there's fireworks at midnight, we'll just go to it because it's 2 blocks from the house and we're home. And so that has been really nice. And if we ever decide to leave the city for the greener pastures of the villages and suburbs, it'll be something that we would truly miss.
And I think that is definitely, that's the pros and the cons, I think, of you can't have both those things.
Right.
There is not a place that I've seen anywhere that I've lived where you have space and air and nice gardens and a pool and also super duper easy access and walking ability to everything and everything that you need, so that you don't have to use a car, because those are the 2 things you would want, right? You would want accessibility to go get anything you want on foot whenever you want and fall accidentally into a festival and things like that, which is really fun, and access easily for everybody just to walk over to their friends' houses for dinner and walk home, and also have a pool and a garden. It just doesn't exist. So you have to kind of
I think maybe you can have that. Well, maybe like in the suburbs, like the Godellas, La Cañadas. I think people there may, if they've met their neighbors enough, because they're a little tighter, right? You're in country mode where those suburbs are more densely populated. So maybe they have that kind of country club life, as I want to call it, where you walk around the neighborhood and you have people, but it isn't the city. But they also have accessibility to the subways. And for me, for my daughters, I wanted them to be, now that we're here, the independence that they're gaining from living in the city. And if we were to move to a town, I would think about a town with subway or train accessibility or a good bus system. And I mean, I think Náquera, like if Xena gets older, if she gets older, I mean, she's gonna get older. I mean,
when she gets older.
I mean, I think there's
if she wants independence when she gets older.
When she wants independence, or if you want to kick her out of the house when she's older. I mean, there's buses that get you to the city direct from Náquera though too. I don't think
no.
So never mind, there isn't.
No,
I thought there was.
No, but what she could. I mean. She can take a bus down to Betera and take a metro. She can. It's doable. But to what you were talking about before, if you're living, I would consider still Liliana and Godello and those areas like part of the flats area around Valencia. You're not getting the breezes and the views and all the things that we have up here.
100%.
So when you might find an area where you have a bit of a community and you can maybe walk into a kind of a high street that maybe has a few things that might be possible. You're missing probably, like you were saying earlier, if your kids are in private school, their friends are everywhere. Right. You might get lucky and they have a good friend that lives close by, but like Zena's friends are everywhere. There is no one place where we could live where all of her friends were. Right? That doesn't exist. We might get lucky and have one friend or 2 friends close by, but because you're not in the public school living in that, you're not getting that. And I think one of the things I love about, like, if you're gonna live outside of the city, living up somewhere where you can have a pool and you do have fresh air and you have the mountains is really, really nice. The middle part of that, like you said, would be like in the Godella, like Liliana area, where maybe you have like more of a townhome situation with a small pool, and maybe you can walk into a high street. Maybe you might still need a bike or a car to get to the metro station.
You would
You may
definitely need
not
a
be
car
so
to
close.
live there. Like you would definitely have to
Yeah,
have a car in those places,
you'd
but
still have to have a
you'd
car.
still have a car, but your child could have some a little bit. Children are willing to walk a little bit more to get away from their
Yeah.
parents, so maybe they would.
That's very true.
So
But it's also extremely expensive to live. If there is an area where you can have a house and a garden and a town and like a townhome and a pool and be walking distance to the metro and a town, it's going to be very expensive.
Right.
So let's also mention that it's not something that's like accessible
Right.
to everybody.
And then, granted, expensive is relative to this area. I mean, people coming from over here
Yes.
are going to be like, "That's not expensive." And after
Well,
living
I
here,
think it depends on who you are.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
and I mean, after living here for 2 years, what's expensive? What wasn't expensive to me before is now expensive to me because you get acclimated
Yeah.
to the prices of everything, and you're like, "Oh, this isn't," it's not as cheap as I thought it was because now you're living that life, right? It's not you're not on your old income. You're now
Yeah.
on this new
But
economy.
I still think 6, 7, 800,000 for a house is expensive.
Oh no, I do too. But obviously in LA, it's
And I
not.
think and additionally, if you're paying that and you're here on a non-lucrative visa and you're not working, there you need to have a certain amount of income to be living somewhere with kids, putting them in a private school,
Right.
buying a house of that level, being able to maintain that for 5, 10 years while your kids go through school. Like that's an amount of funds that are needed.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
That's more, I think, than the average person has.
Right.
Generally, that I know.
Right.
But yeah, definitely there are people that can afford that, and they might be able to live in that sort of little pocket. But it's quite a tiny pocket.
Right.
In each town, the pocket around that's walking distance to a metro station.
Or the town square because some of
Yeah,
these
or
have
both,
yeah,
right?
yeah, some of the metro stations aren't near the town square. It's at the
Right.
it skirts the edge of where the town meets the orange grove, and so you're like,
Right, there you go. So you might be close to the metro, but not close to where all the shops and restaurants are. Like
Right.
it gets a little. It can be funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely, I would say, overall, without spending a ton of money, that thing that we're talking about doesn't exist, where you literally
Right.
have a house and a garden and a pool and metro and restaurants.
You can't have
You
it
know
all.
what I mean? Like
You
it's
don't
very
have it all.
hard.
Yeah, you don't have it all here.
That's I think anywhere. I mean, we were living close to a main street in Alexandria and all this, but then we still needed a car to go
Right.
do big things, and also to get the kid to school, and so yeah. So you definitely need to have a car. We do have friends that live in other areas that are. They have sometimes in some areas the bus system is a little better than others as well, and directly in and out of the city. But it's definitely a different type of lifestyle that is, sometimes like this is not how we lived in America. So this has been an adjustment for us, and
Right.
the pros and cons. I think we would like to be more connected, but we also enjoy being in the mountains. So
Right.
it's like, you gotta at some point you do have to pick it.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
love to have not a garden like you have because that's just too much work. But I would like
Yeah.
I would
You'd
like
like
to
a
have.
pool.
I would like a pool. I mean, I can go without the pool. I would like it out. A more of an outdoor space. I mean, we have a balcony and a terrace, but it's not huge, and we can't host parties on it. But I would
Yeah.
love to have a little grassy area to like sip a coffee in the morning, and and have that kind of lifestyle with greenery all around me. That's something I wouldn't mind having. And who knows who knows when my kids leave me. What I'll move
Aw.
into. Who knows? I just want to be a bitter old man alone in my townhouse in my garden. Don't talk to any of the neighbors. Who knows what tomorrow will bring?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure you'll be delightful. I'm sure. Yeah, it's definitely different, but you can have it all here. Just you have to pick one.
Exactly.
You can have one and then the other. You can't have it all at once.
You can't have it all. I think I've heard that before. I mean, I think people wrote the books that you can, but you really can't have it all. I've
You
tried.
really can't. You got to
tried.
pick. You can have it this and then you can have that, but you can't have it all at once.
You can't have it all at once. So if you are thinking about moving to Spain, don't tell us we didn't warn you. You can't have it all.
And if you haven't heard that before, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you think you can.
You
You're
think
like,
you
yes,
can.
you definitely keep thinking that you can. I do anyway. I'm like, yes, I can.
I can have it all. I want it
Let
all.
me try.
Well,
Like a
on that
child.
note, I think we probably should go because we can't be here all day either. We have
No,
lives to do.
and it is hot, and I do need to go jump in the pool.
That's my response to her. my inner mad cat just came out. So well,
All right.
until next time, hasta
Until
luego,
next
Tanya.
time. Hasta luego.
Hey, can't get enough of us? Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Ospain Podcast.
And on our website, ourspain.com, which we will be updating with exciting new things as we grow.
We would love for you to message us with any topics you would like to hear about.
See you next time.
Bye.